Welcome to Game Devs Play Games, where we play games while talking game design. You could say this is a Game Devs Play Games with devs.
Ooh.
Speaking of devs, we have BobbyLox on the show.
Hi.
Introduce yourself, BobbyLox.
My name's BobbyLox, and I'm the creative director of Important Little Games, and we're working on a game called Codemancer. It's a fantasy adventure where you play as a girl who has to learn magic to rescue her father, but the way magic works is programming. So it's an educational game for 6 to 12-year-olds, which you backed, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it was complete coincidence that I even knew that he was around. It was actually found out through Chris Wade, which you should go watch that episode too.
Yes.
And found out that he's
Maybe
local,
you should
so
put
he's
a
on the
link
show
to
now.
that or something.
Yeah, this guy will do it. He does all the hard work. I just sit here and make fun of him the entire time. That's my job. So,
I do the same thing with my podcast, the Game Entrepreneur Show. My co-host Kiwan Hong, basically, Kiwan Hong does all the hard work, and I just come in.
I didn't know that you were on that show. I recently started following that, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I saw they had Chris Wade on there. I was like,
Yeah.
Now I'm even crazier about this show.
I couldn't make it to that taping, so guest host Jamie Sanchez was filling in for me, and she did really well.
Nice.
fantastic. So we're going to play The Incredible Machine, or rather, he's going to play The Incredible Machine since he's probably way better at it than we are. And
I doubt that's true.
we're going to hope it's true.
Technically, this is the even more incredible machine, right?
Yes.
It does look exactly like the original, though, so...
Yeah, I feel like it's just like a little, like, has a few extra things. Well, we'll find out. Somebody will probably post and be like, actually, it's this thing.
Just post the word actually, and we'll know what you meant. That's all you need.
Alright, so you want to dive right in?
Right.
So
Okay.
the basic premise of this game is that it's a puzzle game, right? So you have to create these Rube Goldberg contraptions to
And click on the image.
meet some goal. So in this case,
Yeah,
we have
so
to make
we're-
the basketball go through the hoop.
Exactly. And this is the hoop in our abstract sense of what things are.
Well, when I look at a basketball hoop from the side perspective, that's what I see. Clearly.
It's like when you're looking at a 3D model and it doesn't render the polygons on the inside, you just see like weird bits of it, and you're like, I think I understand what this might have been once.
So yeah, I think they had too much confidence in their ability to render scenes here, because this is supposed to be a man with a starter pistol and a racer, and that's like the start. Rather than have a simple
'cause it's the
play
start.
like triangle, they had they rendered a man with a starter pistol and a racer in front of like a railing with a tree and clouds. It's just like way too complicated.
It went
of a
all
scene.
out. You know, I actually like you could look at it and be like, oh, it's actually a runner. He's about to run, and then another guy coming up behind him and be like, sir, do you have time for me to explain our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Showing him the Bible.
Yeah, well, you run just as fast from either.
Touche. So I've only played a couple of levels of this game, but I found it really interesting that in this very first level, they don't do a ton to, I guess, tell you how things work. They just kind of give you these items on the side,
Yeah.
and they're just kind of like, figure it out. And so it took me a little while to realize how to get the gerbils to actually start running. I didn't realize you have to like bump them on the...
Yeah, you have to disturb them somehow.
But then I feel like the levels following this actually kind of guide the player a little bit more.
Yeah, this is better level design right here in terms of tutorializing these concepts, because we're just repeating what's on the left, except doing it on the right here.
And I think the best part about this...
And we gotta flip that.
Yeah, and I think the best part about this is if you hit play before you even place anything, it teaches you start this gerbil contraption when the basketball hits it, and then you have all these components that kind of work together.
And but right there, that explained a lot more. That we were talking about this before, that the first level is not very well explained, but all the stages afterward are actually pretty good tutorials. So it's like the barrier to entry. Like, you got to get past that first level before you can really learn how to play this game. So, your Kickstarter for Codemancer,
Yes.
I think it ended up at 52 grand and 750. Is that correct?
Something like that, yeah. It's been a long time since I looked at that number, mostly because a lot of that is now has taken the form of artwork and various other things.
You actually see the product of it. Tell us how was your Kickstarter? Because you were reaching for 12 grand on it, so you more than quadrupled your goal.
Yes. It was amazing.
It is awesome to see that people are so ready to support something like an educational game. I feel like that's kind of a genre that's kind of disappeared since the 90s. And there still are studios like, there's one in Wisconsin. I should
There's
know.
Filament Games.
Yeah,
that's
Filament
probably
Games.
what you're thinking of. Yeah.
I really like those guys, but I feel like they're one of the few studios that are trying to make good educational games these days.
Yeah, I mean, there's I would say a small handful. There's Filament, there's Fablevision, there's First Playable Productions. There's probably a ton more, and now I feel bad because I was actually just at the Games Learning Society conference where all of these people sort of gather.
That's fair. I think the microphone's a little far from you, but
Oh no. I hope that. Okay.
Just move right over, switch it, boom.
Sweet. All right.
hopefully that's not too noticeable, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah. Just do your math.
Yeah, so I was just at Games Learning Society, and all the people who sort of care the most about making actually good educational games were there. It's a really fun, exciting place to be. How do I get this in here? Gosh darn it.
I found this out because I played a little bit
Do you have to
yesterday.
rotate it
You
first?
have to rotate it first, and then it will fit in there.
Oh, okay.
That's a little awkward.
Yeah, a little clunky.
Where is Gamescom?
Where's Gamescom?
Or the place you were just talking about?
Oh, the Games Learning Society,
Yeah.
GLS. It's at UW Madison actually, but
okay.
this was the last year, sadly.
What?
Aw.
Yeah.
No!
For real. We all feel the same way. The two sort of most prominent developer academics that were in charge of the UW program, Constance Steinkuhler and Kurt Squire, are leaving for UC Irvine starting in the winter. So there will be no more GLS conferences, or at least they won't take the form or the name that they had before.
It's a little sad. I guess at least it's for good reasons, not like no one was interested, so it just had to
Absolutely.
end.
Yeah, no, the interest is still there and growing. I think, this was a pretty big showing. And
That's good. Hopefully somebody will pick up the reins from there. So you mentioned, you specifically mentioned there are a few other companies that are they're trying to also make good educational games. And I actually read it up on your part where you're talking about your new studio, and you also said you're like, I'm trying to make a good educational game. So there are a lot of
tricky.
people out there that have opinions on good education design. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what do you?
Yeah. So I have this thing which I call, and nobody else does, which I call the sort of fundamental principle of educational game design, and it's just something that Scott Osterweil, who made Zoombinis, I don't know if you are familiar with that educational game from the 90s. It's a Zoombinis, a numerical journey, I think it's called. It's really, really good, sort of cute puzzle game. It's like if what's that Nintendo game with the Pikmin? It's like if Pikmin were an educational game, it would be the Zoombinis.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
does sound
and
amazing.
Pikmin is already kind of educational in a way. It's used as Jim G's sort of example game for for his book, What Games Have to Teach Us About Learning and Literacy.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So this is all like, we have to do this entirely experimentally. I'm just going to put these like randomly
It is
here, and then we'll figure
from my
out.
experience, not at all solved how you think it's going to be at first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, okay.
Although it's pretty funny, I accidentally created an infinite loop with it, just because it kept bouncing in a specific way. It's like, I didn't even mean to do that.
Let's see. Something.
Because the trampolines have a very different perspective on how physics works.
Yeah, I think they actually add energy each time.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than just reducing the energy by less than a normal floor would, it adds energy.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there we
Notice
go.
how it's getting
Whoa.
higher.
Yeah.
Okay, and that one needs to go just to the right of where it was.
It actually does you better. It's better if you like the next one is lower than the original one.
Oh, really?
Oh, because
Yeah.
it adds like energy
Oh,
from
'cause
gravity.
Based off the fall.
Interesting. I was gonna say too.
I mean, this will be just fine.
This game
unless it
probably-
passes it.
Boom.
Oh, right on top.
Yeah, when I first saw this game, I was like, oh, it must teach really interesting things about physics. But I guess
It
it's
more teaches
about
you about its physics.
yeah, I guess really this game, from an educational standpoint, is probably good just for like logic solving, which I honestly don't think I've seen any other games that have a similar design to this. I mean, I'm sure there's probably someone else that's done similar things, but
Yeah, there's a VR game right now.
really,
That and now I can't recall the name of it. Oh,
is
my
it being
goodness.
developed by an indie studio?
Yes, it is. It's by the people who made Incredipede. I can't recall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I don't know what studio that is either, but
So they
I've seen Incredipede.
Is it the one oh man, is it the one where you're like in space and you have the machines? I think if that's the one, I might have actually seen it.
You mean the VR game?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. What? Oh.
Okay.
Kapow. Broke it.
Bam.
Nice. Wait, you had to break the fish tank?
Yes.
Kill the fish?
Yes, your goal here was to kill the fish.
It's about logic. It's about logic, Chris.
The cool thing here is you can also just like adjust gravity.
Oh yeah, I noticed that too.
Hey, you have to do it
Okay,
in
we have to
freeform
do it in
mode. You
freeform
can
mode.
change it
Never
to
mind.
freeform mode.
So it's
Oh.
yeah. So we can just do
Go
this
for
thing.
it.
So, you're the one that actually requested that we play this game. I'm curious as to why you were hoping for Incredible Machine to begin with.
I just think it's one of the best sort of educational games from the golden age of educational games. Like, around the same time, SimCity is coming out, like the first Civilization, Oregon Trail, and Carmen Sandiego, like all these really great educational games.
Like early 90s. I think they were all early 90s, right?
Yeah, seems like. I mean, it's true that it doesn't. I think one important thing is it didn't really try to sell itself as an educational game, or it doesn't seem right like it.
It's very stealth about it.
Mm-hmm. It's not like match the numbers together or something like that, and you're like, all right, this is obviously something I would have played in school. Instead, it's more like, no, actually have fun, play this on your computer in your off time.
It's really interesting too, because I wonder if they had a hard time like reaching a targeted demographic, right? Because you get games like Jumpstart or Math Blaster, and those were very clearly those were geared so specifically down to like the grade in school.
Yeah. Those are actually, in my opinion, like some of the worst examples. Of
I was
educational
really
game
curious,
design.
yeah. What do you think or I guess why do you think they fail as educational games?
Well, partially it's a problem of the sort of incentives involved. So there was sort of a time in this needs to be triggered, I guess. There was a time in this golden era when basically after people saw that there was money to be made in educational games, they started doing it and sort of preying on the fears of parents that their kids would not be able to sort of compete. I'm gonna trash this. And so they just made games that looked like they were going to be educational games and fun, and they marketed the funness. And I'm sure they are more fun than some traditional learning methods, but like they're basically flashcards with like little mini games in between. And that's what Math Blasters is, to be frank. So let's see if this works.
In a weird way, it kind of teaches you the same way that homework.
How does
kinda...
that bowling ball not? Okay, all right.
Kind of worked.
Well, yeah.
But yeah,
Let's get out of freeform mode because let's see. How do I exit?
try
uncertain.
right-clicking.
Yeah.
All yes. Good. Okay, so let's go back to the puzzles.
But yeah, I totally agree, though, how those games basically function like
So much
flashcards.
tutorial. Yes, absolutely.
And I remember, too, like, I played a lot of those games as a kid just because I thought they were fun. And as soon as they started getting difficult, like, I think I played Jumpstart 5th grade or something, and they tried teaching history, I stopped caring about those games. But when they were kind of mindless and repetitive, I just played them because I thought they were fun and not because I actually learned anything.
I actually had a problem with, I think it was Math Blaster, specifically because playing through it, I started to just memorize the patterns. I'd be like, oh, well, like the moment I saw like 15 times whatever, I'd be like, oh, I already know the answer because I've already answered this specific one 5 times now. At that point, I was like, all right, I feel like you need more content to your game.
So I guess, what do you think makes for a... I know this is a super broad question, but what do you think makes for a good educational game then?
Yeah, so I started to talk about this and then got distracted by this game, which does require my brain power somewhat.
It's taken us about a year of being on the show to start to get good at that. I totally understand.
Probably would not be able to pull this one off. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So the thing that I call the sort of fundamental principle of educational game design is, as again, Scott Osterweil said this, so it's not mine. It's basically, if you can make the primary game mechanic in your game precisely the thing that you're trying to teach, then once you've sort of achieved that alignment, you no longer have to worry about instructional design, because it becomes a pure game design problem. Every time, in every game, they teach you the main mechanic of the game, right? There's some kind of a tutorial system, or like a ramping up, or like in some cases it's just a terrible text box. But anyway, all games teach you how to play them. So if to play a game is the same thing as to learn whatever you're trying to teach, the learning goal of the game, then once you've sort of figured that out in the beginning, from then on you can just be a regular game designer. You don't have to worry about.
And I completely believe you when you say that, and that you're not just like talking out your butt there, because the Codemancer is exactly that.
That's what I was going to say too.
How you play is by coding, and so you teach them exactly that.
The education is integrated into the mechanics itself, and not, like you said, a crappy text box that explains things.
Thanks. Yeah, it's taken me a long time to sort of feel like I'm doing okay at that. But yeah, I hope I'm getting there.
I guess we'll see once Codemancer is... I guess, where are you in the development process? Are you still kind of working in alpha right now? Or is that just sort of a nebulous...
It's hard to say. I've gotten all the cutscenes are done. All of the sort of systems level programming is done. We've got about a fifth of the levels designed satisfactorily. I'm sure there'll be lots of tweaking, but and we want to release something this fall, and we're now thinking about splitting it into episodes, possibly.
All right.
To making it like a 3-episode game or something. I'm also talking to publishers about bringing it into the game space, because like I can self-publish like into regular regular sort of games markets, but in terms of bringing the game to the educational world, like into schools and such, that's really something that an indie developer can't do. At least not without like a lot of time and a lot of money.
Yeah, there's really no good go-to place for
The
something
marketing's
like
got to
that.
be very difficult for that.
Yeah.
I've never even thought about that. That's a very interesting problem to have.
So, Codemancer, tell us, like, where did you come up with the idea for the world and everything? Because the thing that kind of sold me on it was not only when I saw the Kickstarter, was like, oh man, look at this like, Wiki's actually trying to put coding into it, and that's how he's teaching. That's awesome. But it was also the way that you were going about the world and how it actually appealed to kids, because that was the main character and all that. So where did you get that idea?
Well, I had been struggling with my initial thought was I'm going to make a gamification of Logo. I don't know if you're familiar with Logo, the like little turtle that you can draw with. It's like a programming language for kids that was from the 80s, early in the sort of computer history. I wonder, can I do something with this bowling ball or something? I don't know how this is going to work out. No, I can't.
Maybe... Oh, that thing doesn't fall. I thought
Yeah, I thought this was going to fall too, and then I could like tie it.
Can you tie the rope to that...
The teeter-totter, yeah. So maybe that's what I need to do here. I need to get rid of these. Wait, no.
The things that are already on the map, you're not allowed to actually move. I found that I was like, I've already placed it. Or if it's already on the map before you get to go, then you can't touch it.
So this one...
Oh.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, the puzzle design in this is, I guess, pretty simple to probably design and then a lot more difficult to solve. But I think it's kind of smart in that sense where they just have probably all these rules for each of these objects, and then when you're designing these levels, you can just kind of crank them out because you know the end result, so just set up some interesting locked pieces and...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really cool how for this game, all you really, like, once you've figured out how the pieces interact and what they're going to be, you can, it just becomes like playing with a toy. It's like super fun. And I did that a little bit with Codemancer too, of like, designed a bunch of enemies and all the, sort of actions and how you code and stuff, and then now we're doing a pure game design pass sort of. Whereas I guess I could have like been designing levels as I went, and I would have had to throw them all out anyway. So I'm kind of glad I went with the style that I did.
That's fair. So I guess I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but how exactly does Codemancer play? Because I don't know too much. I just know more of the concept in the world. But
right on.
I'm curious about the game mechanics themselves.
So the... Can someone take over while I talk about that?
Here, you can use this as your surface.
Sweet.
Okay, Nathan's at the helm now.
Oh, this is going to be terrible. So pay more attention to him than the game, I guess.
So basically you have like a programming tablet, and it's all spells. So you're writing a spell, and it starts with sort of a start rune, and from that there's a radial menu of sort of top level functions you can do. And when you select those, it spawns one of those things, and then those have arguments in them that you can then replace. So the default arguments can be replaced. So, like for example, the simple actions like forward or turn right have a number argument, and you can just change that number argument in place. And you can also in place add some kind of calculation, which like an addition or a variable reference or things like that. So everything's radial menus in place, and you're sort of just like building essentially a program, but it's all runic and symbolic, so there's nothing to read about it.
So it really is focused more on the logic of it rather than like, I don't know, syntax or raw terminology of like, you're not using C++
right.
words in there.
Yeah, so there's no such thing as a syntax error in Codemancer, which I think is pretty nice. And there's also no such thing as like code on the screen which isn't executing. So like there's sort of a movement right now to use block programming languages, which are inspired by Scratch. And Google Blockly is one of those things that they wrote a library that makes it really easy to use these block programming languages. But they basically you're dragging and dropping things and fitting them in together like Lego. But you can just like leave code hanging out that will never execute. You can like and it has words built into it, so you have to kind of read what those are. And I don't know, part of my design process is a reaction, frankly, to that to that style of programming. So yeah, you've got a
got
thing.
the generator going. What on earth do these do?
I don't know.
Oh, good.
It looks like a little train almost, but I think it's just a generator. I mean, you could probably use one of those rubber tracks to turn something.
Well, it's already.
Well, maybe
turning,
that's
so.
a motor, electric motor.
Yeah, and this is what is
So
powering the outlet
the generator.
in the first place.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it should be powering the
So there
outlet
should
once
be-
it starts moving. I'm just unsure of how this function. Okay,
Maybe this is the generator and that's the motor.
Oh, maybe this will. No.
Yeah, I think we've got generator and motor mixed up here.
Oh, that's cool.
Can I just
Oh yeah.
re-grab? it?
Although if that's the case, how is that first switch powering anything? Or getting power?
It's not yet. There you go. Trash it.
Boom. All right. So this.
Yeah, you need to delete that other band too.
Keep pressing the right button to delete it. All right.
That's cool though with Codemancer. So I guess really the hope is that after kids
I'm sorry,
play
we keep losing my train of thought. It's a very engrossing game, and it does.
It really is.
But I guess the end goal is that, if a kid plays that game and, learns a lot of the logic flow, if they go and enter into the programming world and start to develop a language, at that point they just need to learn the syntax and the terminology, and they already have the kind of the mindset of how the logic works. So then it's just about memorizing what you can do in certain languages.
Yeah, and I'm even part of the sort of stretch goals for Codemancer's Kickstarter project was to make a sort of traditional online course called Python for Codemancers that will basically take students that last mile who want to go that far. So if you if you want to learn a real if you've beaten Codemancer and you want to then learn Python, it shouldn't be that hard because a lot of the concepts are exactly the same.
That's cool though. It has sort of a real world application that follows the game, which I don't think I've ever really seen before. That's cool though.
We also have a companion novel, which is really exciting to me as a point of entry for. So like I'm really focused on trying to get those kids that wouldn't normally sort of seek out a game about programming and getting them to engage with it.
I actually did see that that you released an update that actually has part of, or like it's like so far already like 130 pages or something like that of material already. I was very happy to see that the novel was already had so much work built on it.
And we have some cover art now. We're almost done. We're actually just working on some like code that'll be in the book itself. So there'll be some Codemancer style spells throughout the book that'll sort of I want it to sort of almost act as a so this is very interesting. It acts as a study as like a strategy guide. So this part is really interesting because there's like photovoltaics attached to the outlets. So they're solar powered outlets. You need to like turn on lights and that turns on the power.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not explained at all, but yeah, that's why there's a flashlight.
The shining light on the solar panel will make the electric plug active. Okay.
Yeah. In future iterations of this game, I think they did a better job at explaining how things work. They even had like voiceover and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird that like the other sort of these other Golden Age games have gotten endless sequels. So they're still making Carmen Sandiego's. They're still making Oregon Trails.
Really? Wow.
I did not know that.
Yeah, for real. For Facebook and for mobile and for whatever the hot thing is. I'm sure there'll be VR Carmen Sandiego before long. But
I'd play it.
You know, so would I. I'm a sucker. But Incredible Machine was sort of orphaned in terms of like its intellectual property. Nobody really owns it, so so there are no sequels except spiritual sequels. Like people still make sandbox like Rube Goldberg machine games.
It's pretty cool though.
How do I get that ball?
It's underappreciated in my humble opinion, which is why I wanted to play today.
And that's totally fair. I think that's why I was so blown away, because I didn't hear about this game until less than a year ago when I saw some streamers playing it, and I was like, this game looks crazy and old. How did I miss this one? But I love the concept for it. I think it like kind of merges exploration with education in a way, which you don't get to see very often. So I think my big question too is, what got you into the educational game space?
A book called The Diamond Age by Neil Stephenson.
Yeah?
Yeah, when I was working at Wolfram, I read this book and I was like, oh goodness, first of all, this is something that needs to happen, because in the book they describe sort of the ideal educational digital thing. It's called A Young Lady's Illustrated Primer, because these are neo-Victorians. In the future, there are people who have chosen to sort of reject modern values and go back to Victorian era mores. So, but that's sort of immaterial to this. It's something that's in the form factor of a storybook, like a big, voluminous storybook, and it is a storybook, that one that rewrites itself to teach basically whatever the user would find most useful to know. So it surveils you while you're not using it with its like onboard cameras and microphones, and processes that information to try and figure out like what would it be useful to teach this person. And then it teaches you in the form of a story that stars a version of yourself that you can interact with. So
that's really cool.
I thought that was a really awesome notion of like this universal teaching game. I have kind of moved away from that since. Like I think that each type of content kind of requires its own type of game. But I really want to contribute to a large ecosystem of different games. Like it would be fantastic if you could just play a really good quality educational game for any given subject you want to learn. That would be like a dream to me. But there's also a lot of weird stuff. Disclaimer in the book, The Diamond Age. There's like an orgy computer and a bunch of like really strange things that I kind of wish weren't in there. It's literally like swapping fluids to do computations.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's so it's a very minor part of the book, but it kind of spoils it for some people. But if you look beyond that and just like concentrate on the character of Nell and her journey, then it's really inspiring, at least to me.
I've learned one thing, and that thing is I'm very bad at this game.
To be fair,
So,
you also
can
jumped
you
in like...
Get the ball onto there.
So I can't flip.
You can flip
you
the
can
motor
flip
though.
Yeah.
Oh, and it will turn the wheel.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Really? Oh, that's why. So that goes there, hits that, bam, hits the light, turns this on. Everything makes sense now. So then this goes...
Yep.
I'll switch that around. See, that was my whole problem too. I was like, how the... It's going this way. How am I...
It's
Alright,
okay,
so
buddy.
I know. Alright, so we're gonna
It's a tough game. Nobody's saying it's easy.
Boom, turns that on. Then...
Right on. Awesome. I think you got it.
See, the moment you said that, everything just fell into place. I like the simple rope mechanic. Like just that I don't know. It was cool. He tied a rope to a pail, and then everything
Yeah.
just made sense.
I kind of like that everything's click too. There's no like real drag operations. It's just like click to connect on one point, and then click to connect on another point.
It's focusing purely on the things that to the things that matter, and that's the logic of the game, rather than actual like trying to change the mechanics with what the player does themselves.
Do you want to go to freeform mode again?
Sure. I mean, if we're doing freeform mode, I don't know what to do on it.
The most fun thing is to just put a whole lot of trampolines and cats.
Done.
So you pass trampolines. There you go.
All right.
You can punch the cats too if you want. With the... You gotta turn the sound on once you get the cats on screen. But anyway, yeah, that's a lot of.
There's a cat.
Yeah.
Right, so when I put a cat there, is he gonna fall? Or is he just gonna?
Fantastic. You should have him fall further. Here, I'll turn up the volume so we can hear it too.
All right. So.
And you can, if you scare the cat with a mouse, or like entice the cat with a mouse, then you can get them to move in that direction. It really is very inspired by the old like Rube Goldberg cartoons from newspaper, like the newspaper comics.
Is that where they started?
Yeah.
Oh wow, my introduction to Rube Goldberg devices was in probably like Tom and Jerry cartoons, which that was fantastic too, but.
I think it was like just a syndicated one-panel comic, like What Love Is or Family Circus or whatever. But it just had crazy machines.
That's fantastic.
So will the mouse just run forward?
Well,
Or do I gotta? Oh, he caught the mouse. He caught the mouse. Everybody. Oh no.
You might be able to use fish too. I'm not sure. I think those will fall. It's really unclear sometimes, like what is affected by gravity. Clearly,
Like the fishbowl is not.
yeah,
Yes.
fish bowls are levitated or anchored somehow.
So, are there any other educational games out there, like in modern educational games, that you're excited to see or have enjoyed in the last, I don't know, 5 or so years?
Yeah.
Other than Codemancer, obviously.
Yeah, naturally. Yeah, I think, I follow everything that comes out of Filament. I really loved their, I think my favorite is Do I Have a Right? Which is really old, actually. A collaboration with iCivics, where, nice. Oh, you can't see it anymore. Where you are in charge of a constitutional law firm,
Oh, wow.
So you have to determine when people walk in, they say like, oh, I have a case that I want you to look at. And you have to determine whether it's actually an issue of constitutional law. And then if it is, you have to figure out which amendment it concerns and route it to the right lawyer. And you also like build up the firm. You have to...
You missed it, buddy.
But yeah, things in development, I don't really know that many games that are still in development, educational wise.
That's fair. Yeah, and I haven't even seen many games that try to involve coding. I think I've seen maybe 2 in the last...
Actually, it's becoming a whole big genre. So maybe I should say all these other coding games that are really cool. Like, there's one called Code Spells, where the mouse can, and it gets blown away. The mouse, that's amazing. Okay,
Well, there's no way the cat. You know what, cat? You're obsolete now. The mouse is
everything. Oh, but he won't run away unless you have a
because
cat.
he needs a cat to chase him.
Oh, interesting. Well, I guess the cat's not obsolete.
I guess not.
Give him less of a head start, maybe. Yeah, so Code Spells is like a very... Wow, that's awesome!
Wait. Oh, but you can't. I wish you could turn the trampoline
90 degrees, yeah. Maybe you can just put a wall up so that it'll bounce off. Yeah, Code Spells is like a sort of Minecraft-y experience where it's multiplayer.
You missed.
It's multiplayer, there's no real story happening, you're just like... That's awesome. New cat over there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we'll get this mouse to go do some crazy stuff. Yeah, it's a multiplayer sort of sandbox thing where you're writing spells and then you can just sort of cast them on the world around you. It's like third person, but you do have like an avatar. Whereas like in Codemancer, it's very like top-down-ish. It's really isometric, but it plays like it would if it was top-down.
Gotcha.
Let's get him all the way up here. He's a long way to fall. I know, that doesn't matter. He's not gonna make it. Little buddy, no! Okay.
Yeah.
I think the most recent game that I've seen that kind of fits into the
Maybe you can
genre
time
is,
release like a door for the cat with like a candle burning a fuse or something. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, if a candle...
Or...
I think a candle takes time to burn through like a rope.
Oh.
So if you had
that
like
makes sense, yeah.
some anchors to that wall and like some other thing blocking the cat, then you could like... I don't know.
Can you like tie a rope to him, like to his tail?
Well, you could probably
Maybe.
just...
It's worth a shot.
Find out.
Animal cruelty doesn't count in games like this.
We do not condone animal abuse.
This is how teachers like flag the psychopaths in their classes. Let's see. There's
You want to give it a try?
Sure. I kind
stuff?
of want to see what I can do with TNT, to be totally honest.
Code
Yes.
Hero has been in development for a long time. That's another learn to code game where it's like a first person shooter where you're like shooting code onto objects and then those objects behave according to the code that you've shot onto them. And that's been in development for a really long time, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. It was kind
If
of
you flip it the other way, the mouse can fall and detonate the TNT and
Oh
then
my
blow up
goodness.
the cat. Oh.
Oh my god. No, we can do something wonderful with this.
Yeah, I wonder if the mouse is heavy enough to depress the plunger.
So that being said, since obviously you're making a game about teaching kids code, then what are honestly how do you feel like the next generation is going to be about coding? Do you think that it's going to be more of a thing that's taught in schools, or how do you
Yeah,
feel
I mean
about
that's
that?
already happening. Like in the Chicago public school system, coding is a core subject. and in many municipalities also, like, and actually I think in this certain states, like in New Hampshire, it's a core subject. It's in the Common Core. Yeah, I think it's just gonna be like foreign language class, whereas like everybody takes Spanish or French or German or Latin or something. Well, everyone will also take a programming language, and maybe they'll get a choice. Maybe they'll be able to take either Java or C or Lisp or something. That would be great.
Awesome. What are you doing?
Oh, that's really good tea.
All right, Cat.
Oh no.
Today you learn to fly.
Oh, that's good.
Oh man.
Oh, wow, that
And
mouse is
the
just
wind is pinned it.
just like in real life.
Well, the mouse has exacted its revenge, I feel.
Oh man, we gotta put some cheese up there or something. Keep it sustained.
Oh yeah. So I guess, are there any other questions or any other things you want to talk about?
I'd like to thank the people at Games Learning Society because I just won second place in the Showcase Awards.
yeah.
Congratulations.
On Thursday. Yeah, that was amazing. So yeah, thanks judges and all the folks that voted and stuff. Yeah, and all the backers. Thank you so much. Yeah, people, like, we've gone way longer than I thought we were gonna go, like, time-wise, but money-wise, I think we're, like, spot on. So, like, we've got enough money to
Fantastic.
take the game all the way to release.
That's good. I feel like time is always the thing that is underestimated.
It's
90% of the
especially-
time, at least.
Especially in Kickstarter, it's like, yeah, you're backing, and I'm like, I know I'm getting into, like, this game could come out in 5 years, I'd still be just as excited at that point.
That's great. I feel bad. There are some people who, like, backed so that they could give the game to their, like, 12-year-old daughter, and now their daughter's, like, 14, and it just doesn't make as much sense anymore.
That's fair.
Yeah, maybe that's a good question. What like age range is the game?
It's
for?
really directed for 6 to 12-year-olds, but I think a lot of people will get something out of it even above that age. Like, I mean, it's really inspired by young adult fiction, and I think that young adult fantasy specifically, like Harry Potter, The Golden Compass, Mistborn, Neverending Story. Those books are for, like, young kids, but, like, I love them even now. Like,
They stick with you forever, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to say too, like, since the game is geared toward teaching programming logic, if you don't have any exposure to that, then even as a 40-year-old man, you could probably play the game and learn a little bit about programming if you've never.
For sure.
Before.
I think it'll still be mechanically appropriate. The narrative maybe won't be. It'll be a little kid.
That's
Kitty
totally
for them.
fair.
And you said you're hoping and shooting for something in fall, maybe?
Yeah.
Something? All right, so keep an eye out. And I know I checked up, if you missed out on a Kickstarter and you are interested in still supporting, there is a section on the Kickstarter page. We'll also put the link in where you can still pre-purchase the game and donate to the cause. So check that out.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right, well, BobbyLox, thanks for joining us.
It's been my pleasure. I've had a really great time torturing mice with you.
Oh, good stuff.
Question of the day? Should we do a question of the day? I feel like we probably should.
Probably should.
Shoot.
I guess. I mean, we could keep it general and kind of say. Well, you look like you have. Or
I mean, I don't know.
Is this like the secret word?
So
thing
it's
from
it's like at the
You
end of
Bet
the
Your
day
Life?
we ask a question and see what the viewer has to say about it.
yeah,
so.
the whole idea of Game Devs Play Games is that we want it to be a game design discussion. So typically we talk a lot of game design on the show, and then at the end we present a question to you guys to kind of discuss it in the comments below. And so it's sort of like a place to go daily to kind of provoke your game design brain. Which is really awesome to see that a lot of our fans have been doing this as their daily habit, and I mean it's good for us, he and I too, because we want to stretch our game design muscles. So it's a good place to practice. So that's what the question of the day is pretty much for.
So I think something relatively simple. What design elements of a game do you think would make it either a good or a bad educational game?
I don't know. Is that a little too broad?
I don't know. We've been brought
We can choose a
before.
learning goal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What design elements would make a good or bad educational game that teaches how to be a chef? Not a cook, but a chef, somebody who can like create recipes.
Fantastic.
I like that. Thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you again, BobbyLox, for coming on the show with us.
My pleasure. This was super fun.
We'll see you next day.
Adios.
I'm gonna wave too.
Yes, please. Wave all you want.
I do finger guns a lot too.
He does do finger. You've caught me doing finger guns.
It's violent.